Hello and welcome to the Rugby Chat podcast. I really should get some intro music, shouldn't I? Do a little dance at the beginning. Anyway, first off, please don't forget to subscribe through your favorite podcast app, be that iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud. We're on all of those places, and also Acast as well, by the way. So don't forget to subscribe so that we drop into your phone every single week. If you'd like to watch what happens behind the covers, then the show is live on YouTube at 8 p.m. New Zealand every Tuesday. You can also join in the discussion on our 5 questions via Twitter. Just follow at DrivingMaul, look out for the questions and use #RugbyChat in your responses. I'm the guy behind I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. Of course, I'm the guy behind DrivingMaul. I'm wearing the silly hat. And I'll be your host for the next hour or so. And back with me by popular demand is... Hey, you there, Mike?
Yeah, hey mate. Sorry, just dropped out. Yeah. Hello. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Sorry, I thought you couldn't hear me there, and that would have been kind of embarrassing. An hour of me going, "Hey, can you hear me?" So we've actually had some reviews. So you've had a personal one that I got on a DM saying, "I really respect Mike. He keeps it real." So there we go. That was good. But also we've had a 5-star review on iTunes by Rusty Milkman. Paul is as passionate as they come, and this is a great listen. Knowledgeable chat with honest guests and analysis. No airs or graces. Get listening. It's great. So please do leave your reviews on iTunes, and we will read them out to you all. So let's kick off. And I've just gone totally blank as to what our first question was. So bring up the doc. Has Australian rugby reached its lowest level? Where is it all going wrong, do you think?
I don't think it's reached its lowest level. But having said that, it's kind of hard to remember a time when it was so bad. I guess like there's a lot of outside influences that are going on exterior to the Wallabies team, and we've seen that this year in particular. To me, I just think the mindset with the ARU is pretty bad. I mean, I said this on the video I did yesterday. I don't understand how they can get rid of the Western Force when they've got more crowd numbers, they've got bigger support, they've got a better team, frankly. And this argument that Melbourne is a better sports destination, well, okay, but you know, in Melbourne you've already got rugby league, you've already got AFL. Yes, they're in Western Australia too. The problem to me is there's not just one, Paul. I think there's numerous ones, but performance is not top priority, I don't think.
No, I agree. There is multiple issues going on. It was quite interesting. I listened to the Green and Gold podcast last week, and they had an ex-board member who had resigned because the force got cut on, and he was saying that the other 4 franchises all had sort of watertight legal contracts, so they couldn't get cut, and the only one that was potential that it could get cut was the force. So he didn't see that any of the others one of the others would go instead. So force is only saving graces if they can prove they shouldn't be dropped, to be honest. But you're right, it's not been done purely on, or actually on playing matters at all. It's been done on who can the ARU actual cut legally, really. Sorry, quick comment in the thing was quick comment in the sidebar. There was, what are we talking about this evening? Well, obviously we're going to talk about the Rugby Championship and the 4 teams in there from different angles, and also we're going to have a chat about the Mitre 10 Cup as well. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But starting off with Australia. So clearly, yeah, the whole process of them getting rid of this team has been an absolute farce by the ARU. So clearly, part of the problem is with the administration. But to be fair to them, they have said that several times they've tried to get all the Super Rugby franchises to work with the national team and have some central control or agreement around things like fitness and conditioning. And the Super Rugby sides have just told them to go away and not work together. Whereas you can't imagine the Blues turning around to Steve Hansen and saying, go away, we're not going to follow your strength and conditioning program, can you?
No, definitely not. And I think like when I'm not nearly as knowledgeable on Australia rugby as I am New Zealand, but to me, like this NRC competition, I believe it's called. I mean, why has that only just happened now? I mean, surely if this is going to be a breeding ground for players to come through the system and get that, you know, semi-professional, professional experience before Super Rugby, surely this should have been around a long time ago. Now, yes, there's probably been other competitions, but a lot of talk in the moment about Michael Cheika as the coach of the Wallabies. Now, clearly he's not the guy, but my question to you would be, well, who is? I mean, so many people have tried and failed. Robbie Deans, I forget the other guy, but it's just, I can't see why you would get rid of Michael Cheika at the moment, because who's going to do it? Who's going to step up?
I agree, and I think that's the not having an equivalent to the Mitre 10 Cup, where the coaches are full-time Mitre 10 Cup coaches, and then they graduate to become Super Rugby coaches, and you graduate to become sort of the national coach. If you look at the NRC teams, Styles was assistant coach at the the Reds, and then he would pop off and do head coaching at Brisbane City for the season. A similar thing happened between the Melbourne Rebels and the Melbourne Rising, who are the team there. Similar thing over in Perth as well. And actually, some of the Sydney NRC teams had unpaid volunteer coaches, which shows you the level that it's at and the organisation it's at. It's nowhere near at the level that the Mitre 10 Cup is, and their coaching pathways just aren't in place. Cheika got the Wallabies to the Rugby World Cup final, and that's when he had them under his control for like a 3 or 4 month block ahead of time. And I think it's that lack of control that's causing it. So there's definitely an ARU point. There's a coaching point, and the fact that there is no coaching pathways, and these guys are getting thrown into Super Rugby coaching without having been head coaches before at a proper organisation. Tano Amanga was at Counties for 2-3 seasons, I think it was, before he got the Blues. If you look at Razor Robinson down in Christchurch now, he had Christchurch for several years, was the under-20s junior All Blacks coach for a number of years as well before he got this position. He's had some proper coaching pedigree before they get to the Super Rugby.
Sorry, it's a good point that you raised about Michael Cheika when he was in control of this team. Clearly, right now, he's not in control. But I remember not long before that 2015 World Cup, the incident with Kurtley Beale on the flights. I think it was, on the way to Argentina or something, and all the things that came out from that. There was the James O'Connor saga, and that all that sort of went away for a wee bit in that period of the World Cup, and they did really well. And then we saw last year a whole lot of players sort of returned and came back into the fold, and it all kind of went pear-shaped again. So clearly there's a lack of there's exterior sources aspects going on here, and there's just a lack of focus on what's best for this national team. And I think if you have the Wallabies' best interests at heart, it's got to start from the bottom and work the way up, and it's not happening right now.
Yeah, I think the players, you had the three amigos, didn't you? Quade Cooper, James O'Connor, and Kurtley Beale, and they were all given too much lease to do what they felt like, and they were too young, and they went off the rails. It looks like Quade Cooper and Beale have sort of got themselves sorted out. James O'Connor with his drugs bust in Paris, you've got to question whether he's ever figured it out yet. We'll see how he goes at Sale Sharks this season. But yeah, there's that kind of mentorship of these players is also not there. And I guess the final thing also is holding on to these players. I read somewhere that across the 5 Super Rugby franchises in Australia, they had 15 Super Rugby debuts. 50 Super Rugby debuts this last season. That's 10 new players who have never played Super Rugby before, for every franchise on average, entering and playing. If you've got that many newbies, you're going to struggle.
And you know what the problem is that the Wallabies jersey is not held in as high regard for the players in Australia as it used to be. Whereas maybe in New Zealand especially, but over in South Africa as well, I think people have a lot more faith and want really to play for that national team. I'm not saying that guys like Israel Folau don't want to play for the Wallabies, but if you ask Joe Bloggs on the street in Australia, you know, what do you think of the Wallabies right now? Then they either don't care or they're very sort of a bit negative about the situation, and I guess that's based on their performances. There's just not the same, I guess, draw card Wallabies as there used to be, I think, anyway.
And also, I mean, part of that is also after rugby, if you have 50 All Blacks caps, that's going to get you jobs afterwards, okay? Whether it be in the media, whether it be coaching, or somewhere you're going to get, there's going to be work for you. 50 Wallabies caps doesn't have the same cachet because rugby isn't as big in Australia, so it's not going to get you the same. There's not as many media places. There's not as many people aren't going to want you promoting their stuff as much because it's not as big. Rugby is third or fourth in the pecking order of just way after sort of league, AFL, and soccer's now starting to challenge them as well. So it's and also you've also got cricket as well. So there is also that element that it's just those jerseys aren't worth as much to the players afterwards.
Yep.
So there you go. That's where we think they're going wrong. It's all over the shop, basically. But yeah, there's a number of things that need to be sorted out there. Moving on, number 2. Did the Springboks flatter to deceive, or are they back as a major force in world rugby?
To be honest, I didn't watch the game. Haven't even watched highlights, so not the best prepared to answer that question. But I think they're on the way back to being a major force in Super Rugby. It's been in world rugby. It's been a pretty dire last 12 months for the team, and there's political issues over there, and those will probably always remain surrounding rugby. But I've just got a good feeling about the Springboks, and I know that Cornflakes could, shout out to him, he's been very much of that same opinion. They're on their way back. So, them beating the Pumas, I think it's an achievement. The Pumas are no easy beats, and so well on their way back, but time will tell.
Yeah, I think that's what we're also seeing through Twitter. Hugh Rothwell's gone and said that question will be answered with more certainty when they take on the All Blacks. MRB has gone and said they're working their way back along the lines of Venter and co influence. And yeah, it is a matter of they are coming back. But to me, when I watched the game, the Springboks didn't offer that much to me. I will get onto it in a second when we talk about the Pumas, and I'll bring up some of the stats around what they did. But to me, the Boks just played pretty much error-free rugby. They only conceded 8 turnovers. They only gave up 6 penalties, which meant that they didn't give away possession. They didn't give away easy territory to the Pumas. And at least I think on the first penalty they gave away, Sanchez missed touch anyway. So there was that. So there was a lack of accuracy from the Pumas. And to me, I think there's still a lot more that needs to come from the Springboks. It seemed error-free rugby rather than scintillated, or rather than sort of running over the opposition. I mean, they did win by 22 points. So I mean, they won by plenty of points. So they did get there, but they only scored 4 tries to 2. The rest of it was penalty goals and poor kicking on the Argentinian side. Again, so I think there is a long way to go, but at least they have a basis for that to come from. The There's lots of talk of them taking on a Lions style game with Elson Yankees, etc. in there, but we didn't really see that kind of game plan from them. We saw much more of a controlled one and not messing up. Was how I read the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they can win all their home games in this Rugby Championship, that'll go a long way. But I also think the end of the year tour will be another interesting gauge for where this team is at, and then maybe next year we can talk about them potentially beating the All Blacks in New Zealand. And I think if they can do that prior to the next World Cup, then the sky's the limit.
So Joshua was asking on the YouTube chat, how did box pack look? That's all that really counts when evaluating a rugby team. By the way, he's a prop. That's not all that counts. But they won all of their scrums. They won all of their. They only lost one line out. So yes, they won all their mauls, 94% on rucks and stuff. The forwards played a good game, and they were solid scrums as well. They weren't scrappy ones that they won. So of their 11 scrums, I say they won all of them. Yep, the box pack looked good against what is traditionally a good scrummaging Argentinian side. So yeah, that was probably the bit that a lot of people have been talking about as being the best piece or the most encouraging piece of the Springboks performance. So yes, that's the. Let's move on to question 3. And you didn't see the game, so it's going to be you're going to have to go on your I guess Hakiwari's experience. But are the Pumas the most frustrating side in world rugby?
No way. I'll tell you who the most frustrating side of world rugby is. It's the Wallabies. No, I really like the Pumas. I mean, yes, I didn't see the game over the weekend, and from what it sounds like, it's, Sanchez and the Lights didn't have the greatest day out. But I honestly think, and I know it's becoming a bit of a cliche what I'm saying on the show, but this Pumas team, they really build for that game against the All Blacks. And the one coming up in New Plymouth, I think, I'll wait to sort of see until that game, and not just because the All Blacks and all that, but yeah, history showed that they're front for those games.
No, and Jack says on the YouTube chat, he's gonna he'd know it's Australia or France, kind of along those sort of lines. But Pierre goes, the Pumas have gone backwards, and I think they have done. This policy of not picking their European-based players has meant that this wouldn't be the first choice side of eligible players globally, and I think that is starting to tell. But when you watch the Hakiwaris, there's all these crazy offloads. The discipline isn't there, and a bunch of that applied to carried over into this game. We had 21 turnovers conceded. The Springboks had 11 scrums. It gives you an idea as to how many knock-ons and how little they controlled and looked after the ball. Then add on to that, they go at 12 penalties to the 6 from the Springboks. Again, there's just no discipline there, which is what really, really hurts them as well. They just can't get the territory and they can't get the ball. They're going to be they're going to just be so far behind that they're not going to catch up. They did look a lot better when Hernandez came on. But I mean, he's been around now for a long time. The guy's got to be close to retirement. You can't live off him forever. They need Sanchez to properly step up. But the other thing that for me is this attention to detail. When Squire ran into the corner and scored the try for the All Blacks, the first thing he does is turn and head towards the posts and try and get and he doesn't push it, but he'll take a couple extra steps and then put it down just to make it a little bit easier for Barrett to kick it. When the Argentinian 9 went over for a try, he was angling out to avoid the tackler, which is fine, but he kept angling away from the posts after he crossed the line and dived. You're like, mate, you could have taken 2-3 steps in. Instead, you've given Sanchez a kick right on the sideline, and funnily enough, he's probably going to miss that because it's just a hard kick. And it's those little detail pieces that I don't see from the Argentinian sides, be it Jaguares or the Pumas. And when we talk about the 1%ers, these aren't 1%ers, these are 5 or 10%ers at the end of the day.
And this comes down to coaching and, further education of players and further resources in the game, really. And I guess that's where, you could probably say that, Argentinian rugby is, yes, they got a team in Super Rugby. Yes, there's talk there might be 2, but, they need better coaches, really, better training, better education of the game, which they just don't have when it's compared to, New Zealand, especially in Australia and so on.
There is also having just picking a national squad from one team is also very difficult. You've got the same players getting told the same thing, working, and yes, fine, it builds combinations, but it also builds boredom as well, and it reduces competition. So players, once they got themselves to be first choice for the Jaguares, know basically, hey, I'm now an international. I don't have to worry too much about competition from other teams. And so there's less to push the players to be the best they can be as well. So they can get away with these little things of showboating, etc., because they're good enough. Which again is part of what we saw from what I was talking about with Beale O'Connor and Quade Cooper, is that they again were the schoolboy wonder stars who were just too good to be told, no, you can't do that. And I think that's possibly a part of the problem we have here as well. Any other final comments on the Jaguares, or should we move on to the All Blacks and the big topic, I guess?
No, I think they'll get better in time, but yeah, move on.
Okay then. Who made the biggest statement in the All Blacks win over the Wallabies?
I'm going to go Liam Squire. This guy's been there or thereabouts for a long time, a couple of years now. And, he was very, very good the other night. I know there's a lot of talk about Damien McKenzie, but I'm going to go with Squire, especially stepping into that number 6 jersey that, Jerome Kaino's had and done so well in for so long. Been easy for someone quite young, really, when you look at Squire, to get overawed by the occasion, but he didn't, and he remained composed in situations where a lot of players wouldn't.
Yeah, and part of the reason for the question is one of the things we said on our live post-match review was that it's the team as a whole made a big statement here, because there's been a lot of controversy going on. Obviously there was the acquittal of the security guard because of the bugging gate from last year, so that was brought back to the surface. There was the Sonny Bill Williams, whether he should or shouldn't be allowed to play, whether those other games counted against his ban, and we've talked about that before. I think we both disagreed that we both thought he shouldn't be allowed to play in this game, but hey, it's what happened. There was also the resurfacing of Aaron Smith's little toilet escapades, and the fact that he may have lied to, or may have said less than the full truth to the coaches when discussing that incident. And finally, also Kaino, there were some suggestions that he's been involved in extramarital affairs as well. So there was a lot of off-the-field stuff here that could have distracted the All Blacks, but I think there was very much they were making a statement. They weren't going to be distracted by all this noise. Yeah,
I think just extending on players really that made a statement. Bowden Barrett with the boot, and yes, I think he's a bit inconsistent, but Ryan Coddy, my God, every time this guy, if he can stay injury-free, he really should have that midfield sewn up. He's just a bloody decent performer for the All Blacks. Who was the other one I'm trying to think of? Damien McKenzie, obviously. But, I think McKenzie, did really well, but remains to be seen. I hope he gets another go this weekend at 15. Don't put him at 10, keep him at 15, and then maybe against Argentina put him in at 10. But lot of standout performers on the night. A bit of talk in the comments about Aaron Smith. Not so sure about that. He looked slightly nervous to me.
I think considering the amount of off-field distractions that were going on, I think he did pretty well, and he picked out Crotty fine for that try just before half-time. His passing was pretty much on point. He didn't seem to be making it, I think. So I'm comfortable. I'm not saying he had a barnstorming game, but I think he had a pretty good. He was okay there. I mean, other players we talked about the other night was Sam Cane with 21 tackles. So that was a bit of a. He put in a defensive masterclass there. You've already talked about Mackenzie, and actually on the Mackenzie one, this game was a game of possession rather than territory, and he didn't get much of an aerial bombardment, or didn't get an aerial bombardment at all. So you're right. He played well under these conditions, and I think it's the sort of thing that his kind of game. Whereas there will be other nights where he's peppered with high balls, and yeah, he's good under the high ball, but he's going to get hit several times by players and see how he gets up from that. So there are definitely different tests to come for him going forwards.
Yeah, there's a comment in here. I don't know if you really want to go down this path, but someone asked the question: when is it okay with the media exposing certain things in players' personal lives? Just wondered if that was worth maybe having a discussion about, or we're not.
Yeah, no, happy to go down that route. So this is something that's come about, and historically, I guess there are two sides to this. There is the one side, the reason that politicians get called up on this is that there is a potential for someone to be blackmailed about this kind of stuff. So, and they could then be blackmailed to not perform, and it could go. And so there is the sort of the match fixing blackmail potential around these kind of things. So if we don't report them and just leave them, and so we say you don't talk about them, then it leaves it open to that side of things, which we wouldn't want to happen, obviously. The other side of it, which is probably the more obvious one and the more that we get talked about, is if you're going to put yourself up as a paradigm of virtue and use it for marketing purposes, then you need to accept that people are going to check up on that for you. One of the All Blacks sayings has been in the past that better people make better players. So is cheating on your wife a better person? Personally, my answer to that would be no. So if you're going to make those sort of statements, then you're going to have to accept the consequences when people aren't living up to those positions, I think.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that was written from the Daily Mail is you know, I call it nothing short of bloody tabloid journalism, really. But I mean, at the end of the day, if it's true and if these players are doing this, you know, it's not right. And I mean, from all accounts, it looks like Aaron Smith, you know, makes a tearful apology in front of the media, gets on the plane, comes home, and as soon as the cameras are gone, he's doing it again. Yeah, I think players do need to take a bit more accountability for their actions, and that is the problem with professional sport. You know, that there's too much accountability placed on the management, placed on the bigger, like the brand, and not enough on the players. And then I think we need to have that discussion, you know, because it appears to be getting worse.
Now, I'm not sure about how much of it actually is getting worse than it used to. There's definitely some of the stories of things that happened in yesteryear would not be acceptable nowadays. I mean, some of the Lions tours where they would trash hotel rooms, and that was considered funny and a bit of a lark. That kind of stuff is not has been removed, and it isn't there so much anymore. So I'm not sure that we can paint the yesteryear people as whiter than white. I just think perhaps the media coverage of them was less because the money was less, and they were doing less on the advertising. They were less putting themselves out there. So yes, they were rewarded less, and they were also under less scrutiny. Now they're rewarded more, and they're under more scrutiny, and that's how it's going to be. And so, if you're going to be taking various moral stands, etc., that some of the players have done, and those players, to be fair, and I think sort of people like Pocock and Sonny Williams haven't been caught out doing anything wrong, but if various players are going to think that if it's acceptable to make moral stands, then it's also acceptable that if other players morally don't do stuff, then it should get brought up. Now, the way it was done may be wrong. I'm not saying that it was all this idea that she didn't know he was married seems a little bit far-fetched. So on the Kano side, on the Kano one, so yes, this idea that she is white than white and he's just the evil man is I think is wrong. I don't think she's whiter than white either. So but from that point of view, I don't think she should come away scot-free. But I also don't think that just because it's their private lives, it shouldn't be exposed. It's not allowed to be talked about because they also make a living off their private lives as well. When you look at players, think like Corey Jane, for example, being in various Hello magazines and that kind of stuff.
Exactly, and that's why there's a lot of comments at the moment, and a lot of people say, "Oh, can we move on from this nonsense?" But that is exactly the point of why this is relevant, because they are making money. They are, their private life is actually. I'm sorry, it's not really private anymore. When you're this professional, But I just wanted to make that point, really.
Yeah, no, I think we agree that
it's relevant. It is relevant.
I think we agree it is relevant, but we're not. But yeah, cool. Time to move on. And I must admit, we have been barreling through them, so we do have time to look at some other things. So let's pull up on Springbok Gladiators' comment here. Do you think the Cheetahs should be allowed to play in Europe Champions Cup within the next few years?
Oh, I don't see why not. Yeah, who knows what's going to happen there? I'm not really up with the latest on. I know there's potential that a couple of South African teams will be going over, but yeah, I think yeah.
Now I think there's a bit more to it than in theory. Yes, if they qualify and get themselves because to meritocracy to get into the Champions Cup, then why not? The only problem at the moment will be is around the scheduling. If you're going to add 2 more teams in to the mix, how do you split up the pools? We've got now the Pro 14, the Top 14, and your Viva Premiership, who have 12 teams. So off the top of my head, that's 14, and 12 comes to 40 teams. Now, so that would and then they also add in 2 teams from the lower grades. So, for example, NSI from Russia have been involved. The Harlequins from Belgrade, I think it is, from memory, have been involved. So there's 2 of those teams as well. That takes you up to 42 teams. Now, if you cut that in half, the champions, the cup and the plate, they're not called that, they're called something else. It's then 21 teams in each, which becomes a bit difficult to sort out as from a logistics point of view, it's a problem that would need to be juggled. From a sort of emotional point of view, hey, if you're in the qualifying competitions and you get yourself high enough up, then why shouldn't you be allowed in the European competitions as well? So yeah, no, absolutely fine once they figured out how to do that. To qualify. Do you have to qualify for the Heineken Cup? Yes, it's not the Heineken Cup anymore. It's the European Champions Cup, and you have to end up in the top half of your league, effectively. The other bottom half of the league go into the European Challenge Cup. Just quickly there for Joshua. Jack Darby, will the Bulls, Sharks, Lions, Stormers eventually move to Europe and join the Pro 14?
Oh, don't know, mate.
Okay. Quickly on this one, the South African Rugby Union have come out and said they want 8 professional teams, 4 in Europe and 4 in Super Rugby. Quite where they're going to find the players of sufficient quality, I haven't got a clue, but that is their vision at the moment. Considering that we were talking about them having to get rid of 2 teams to concentrate quality, and they haven't done that. They've kept the 2 teams and kept all the players and just moved them to a different competition. You do have to wonder how they would get 8 teams to do that. So publicly, they're talking about having 8 teams, 4 in Europe, 4 in Super Rugby, and that is their end viewpoint at the moment. Personally, I think, yes, there's a good chance that the Bulls, Sharks, Lions and Stormers will move to Europe. It seems the natural way for them to go because the time zones are much better. The problem then is, are the Springboks, it's around the Rugby Championship and the Six Nations. Do the Springboks join the Six Nations or do they still stay in the Rugby Championship, which would be kind of a weird fit for them? So we have to see how that would work out. I think that is a bigger question rather than where the Super Rugby teams will go. They will only go if the national team also goes to the Six Nations, I would think, which is where the real money is. The real money isn't in the Pro 14. It's in the Six Nations. So we'll have to see how that will work out. But I think that's the big stumbling block. Not so much moving the Super Rugby teams in the future. What are the chances that these teams will be competitive for the Kings? The big problem for me is the Kings at the moment. They've lost all their players, and they only got. Last time I saw their squad, they had 1 prop and 1 hooker. So quite how they're going to find players at this late notice is anybody's guess. Right, shall we get ourselves back on track?
Yeah.
Question number 5 then. Let me just bring up the slide. What were your favourite moments of the Mitre 10 Cup last weekend?
Oh, well, it's definitely good to have it back on. I think, to me, I didn't watch a whole lot of it, but Canterbury, man, did they make a statement the other night. And the question that, I know I wrote about and a lot of others did as well is, who is going to stop this Cantab side this year? And I think I was shocked really at how bad Tasman played, but Canterbury were just a step above, and so that for me was the moment. 1 game down, they've already bloody laid the gauntlet really, and be interesting to see how they go. And I think the other moment was that Counties versus Auckland, really really good game from what I saw, and good to see old my friend Steve McDonald back on the field. So yeah, well done to him.
It's nice to see Stephen Donald going back to his original province as well. Came down to, I think they won by 2 points, didn't they? It was a nail biter at the end with Auckland pressing for the line and got held up, and with 30 seconds to go after TMO review, they decided that time was up. So a bit of a question mark there around the officiating. But so yeah, Counties got up in that one. So a couple of comments in here. John Travolta, I don't think it's a real one, reckons that Milner against Surveyor was awesome. I didn't see the, so that's the Turbos versus, I've gone blank, Lions. I didn't see that game, so I've not seen that one. But yeah, the Manawatu versus Wellington game has been called up. Datacom 20, the Harbour win, just, yeah, I thought I watched the Harbour, North Harbour versus Otago game and I thought that Gatland had a very good game there, and we'll see him coming up in the into the Blues Super Rugby side next season. I think he obviously was there covering injuries this year, but it's going to be, I did see one tweet saying that Ottram Black has gone from being a squad player for the Hurricanes, he's going to be a squad player for the Blues. Whereas, let's be honest, he must have been thinking that with West moving the other way, he was going to get that starting jersey. But it's going to be that's going to be a good battle between those two.
I think Gatland is the man right now, really, and he's certainly on his way. I'm not so sure about Oteri Black. I mean, yes, he's young. Yes, he's very good, but he seems in some moments just not to be the complete package. And I think Gatland has just got a better a bit more composure, but it just does the finer details a wee bit better. So that's going to be a really interesting battle. But right now, I'd definitely go with Gatland, number 10 for the Blues. And let's face it, they need a good number 10.
Yes, they do. I think that's been a big hole in the side for as long as I've been sort of following them as well. We do need that player there. If you look at the side around him, you've had Pulu at 9. You then had Sonny Williams, Moala, Ranger in the centres available, Rico Iwani, Duffy, who was playing well, Collins, and I've gone blank as Nanai. So you've got quality players around there, quite a lot of players with international experience. It has really been that 10 that's been this gaping hole in the side. I think there are expectations that Gatland will start ahead of Black at the moment, Jack. But it's going to. He's made a comment in the YouTube. But it's going to be. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out over the rest of the season. We've only had one game of the Meistersen Cup so far. A couple of comments in here around the Women's Rugby World Cup. Have you been watching? Keeping an eye on that one?
No. I watched the first game that the Black Ferns played, but haven't really touched base since then. Heard that they're doing pretty well. Quarterfinal, I think, semi, something like that.
Semi-finals are tonight, I believe, and I've forgotten who the Black Ferns are playing, but they're expected to win at that game. The tighter game is going to be the England versus France. So France, the winners of the Women's Six Nations 2 years ago, I think, and England winners of the Six Nations this year. Good, thank you, Jack. Semi tomorrow is versus the USA. Having seen how the USA did against England, the Black Ferns are very much the favourites to go through to the final against the USA. England v France, I say, is going to be the closer game. France has looked pretty good. They came through. They won their pool, and England won the other pool. So that's going to be the interesting one. The big difference is that England are full-time professionals, and so on that score, they should win the whole thing, to be honest, because they're the only team that are full-time professionals. So I think we'll see a New Zealand versus England final, with England coming, taking the tournament there. Right, I think we could be getting towards predictions time. Actually, before that, have you noticed? So next week, I am going to go to some international rugby in Auckland for free, and you can too. Do you know what it is?
Oh, it's the is it the? Oh, I should know this, shouldn't I?
You should, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. No, well, mine's gone blank, but yep.
So next week in Auckland is the Oceania Wheelchair Rugby Championship. So we have New Zealand, Australia, Japan, Korea, I think it is, are playing at ASB Stadium in Auckland, and tickets entry is free. So get on down to watch a bit of murder ball, as they call it. I've never seen it before. I've heard lots of stories. But it's going to be, so I'm going to get down for a couple of games, hopefully next week. So if you're in Auckland, check that out. So, Mike, have you seen much murder ball?
Yeah, I have. It's pretty good game. So you're in for a treat.
So yeah, so if I can get a Wi-Fi connection there, I'll do some live streaming of that as well. So yes, predictions time. What is your call for the Bledisloe Cup 2, All Blacks versus the Wallabies?
I think it's going to be a whitewash, thrashing. All Blacks gonna smash some Wallaby. But honestly, yes, the Wallabies did okay in that second half, but the All Blacks were poor, and I just don't see the Wallabies getting up for this one. I think the All Blacks will only improve. Hansen will probably select the strong squad, actually. So, yeah, really looking forward to it. But I think that the All Blacks will get up I'm going to go by about 15.
Well, Sarah, hello. Thank you for joining us a bit late. Having had some technical issues.
I'm going to go by about 15.
Okay, sorry, you're giving us echo, so I'm going to have to mute you. Thank you for joining us a bit late. We can't hear you either.
Yes, hi Paul.
Sorry about that. We had some technical issues there. Also, I think it looked like it was a big delay as well. So I'm also going All Blacks by 15. That's where I think we're going to. That's is what I'm going to go for. I think they will be a bit tight because I think they'll start Kurandrani ahead of Karevi, and Karevi had an absolute nightmare on the weekend. I think Kurandrani will help them to tighten things up, and hence I'm going for slightly less than 20. I'm going for the 15 this time. In the chat, it's New Zealand by 25, New Zealand by 40 plus. I don't think anyone gives Australia much of a chance, really, but I don't think it's going to be the big blowout that we had last weekend.
The big question here is selections. I mean, obviously you've mentioned the Wallabies there, but I'm really curious actually as to what they do in the All Blacks, because Ben Smith, his last game, will they play him at 15? Or it'd be, yeah, okay, because you got Israel Dag in the mix as well. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on who they'll play.
I think at this stage, with all of the stuff that's going on around, I think they will be looking at hammering home the advantage, and that when they go offshore, away from a bit of the noise, they'll perhaps look at rotating a few more players. But I think at this stage, it's going to be pretty much the same lineup as last weekend. Maybe bring Dag back instead of Mackenzie, and have Ben Smith at fullback. But apart from that, I can't see them making many changes personally. And then depends on how Kano's personal situation is going. If he's back in the squad, then obviously I'd also expect him to have a game as well, replacing. So just bring back the players who are rested, and maybe rest one or two others. But it'll be that kind of rotation, I think. Argentina versus South Africa.
That's in Argentina, isn't it?
It is in Argentina, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Springboks will get up, and probably by about 15 as well. Actually, that's just a guess, but yeah, that's an interesting one. But yeah, I'm going to go to the Springboks.
I've gone Springboks too, and I've gone blank as to what margin. I think I went 5, but I could be wrong. I could have gone. Yes, I think I've gone 5. Springboks by 5. To me, this is the Pumas at home are a stronger team than when they're away, and I'd say that to me the Springboks didn't do too much. They too much right. They just didn't do anything wrong. They need to do a bit more right against the Pumas in Argentina to get the win there. Right then, heading into the Mitre 10 Cup, and I've actually got my predictions this week rather than having to try and do it from memory. So, kicking off, Southland versus North Harbour.
I'm going to go North Harbour. They looked good last week, and I think they're well capable of winning on the road. So, yeah, North Harbour pretty easy there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Southland are one of the weaker teams, so I'm going North Harbour by 15 in that one. I think it'll be relatively comfortable. Bay of Plenty versus Hawke's Bay.
Oh, Bay of Plenty are a shambles. They've been a shambles for the last few years. Hawke's Bay, easy.
I was surprised last weekend because Bay of Plenty lost to Northland, didn't they? And Northland only won one game all last season from memory, and they were on one of the longest losing streaks ever. So I didn't rate Northland at all, but they got up over Bay of Plenty. So yes, I agree. Hawke's Bay by 7 there. Waikato versus Counties Manukau. I believe you'll be going to that one.
Yep, I'll be working there. I'm going to go Counties. I don't know what to say about this Waikato team. Yeah, there's a lot of hate on Zach Guilford. Now, yeah, okay, Zach Guilford might be a bit older. He might have had a bit of problems in his life, but I don't think he's yesterday's breakfast. You know, I think they could do a lot worse, really. And if a guy like that can step up, but no, I'm going to go Counties Manukau. Just there's something about this Waikato team that just says they're not going to have a great season for me.
Well, we're going to disagree on some then, because I'm going Waikato by 5 at home. I was expecting counties to do much better, or to be more convincing against Auckland. I wasn't expecting it to come down to be a nail biter at the end, so they're not where I thought they were going to be. Hence, I'm going to. So I think Waikato by 5. Wellington versus the Naki.
Ooh, I'm going to go Wellington home ground advantage. Yeah, and they need to get back into the premiership, don't they? I mean, Wellington don't deserve to be down in the lower tier by the 10 competition.
I agree as well that Wellington are looking at getting promoted. Last season, from memory, they won all of their championship games and lost all their premiership games. This is a premiership battle. So whilst I've gone Wellington by 5, it's after doing it, and when I said it on my live show yesterday, I was kind of like, oh no, this is the one I've got wrong. So I would not be surprised if the Naki do get up over Wellington, because their size of catchment area, they should be up there, but no one deserves to be in the top draw. You have to earn it. I'm a big believer. So, and they haven't earned it yet, but I expect them to do this year.
Yeah.
Auckland versus Northland.
Ooh, this one could be a bit closer than we think, actually. But Auckland, I don't know. No real fault. I don't like Northland, so gonna go to Auckland with this one.
I'll be honest. I like Northland because they turned up. My first ever Mitre 10 Cup game. It was ITM Cup then. They turned up, and there was all these people in big blue afro wigs making lots of noise, and so I do enjoy the Northland crowd. They did surprise me by singing during their own kicker taking his kick, which for a European just is crazy because you're silent for your own kicker. But they were singing to encourage him to get over, which was just really sort of opened my eyes. So no, I like Northland. I don't rate Northland as a team, and so I'm going to back Auckland by 10. Amusingly, interesting enough, the members get a free lunch if they go to this game. The first 500 members get free lunch for Auckland members. So, or dinner actually. Sorry, this one's a dinner. It's for this game, and encouraged to stay on and watch the test match afterwards. Manawatu versus Tasman.
Oh, Tasman. I mean, they're a team for me that are well capable of winning this premiership, and guys like James Lowe are leaving shortly, and that guy's just got such a he's spiritual leader of that team, really, in some ways, and I love the culture of the Marcos, and a lot of the players have actually got the original Tasman team logo tattooed onto their bodies, from what I'm hearing. Tasman needs to get up because they need to put what happened last week behind them. Except that you play Canterbury, they were just better on the day and come back, against Manawatu and put on a really, really good performance. I'm expecting them to win by about 20.
Whoa, going big. I've gone Tasman by 5. I mean, yes, when you have a fair proportion of your squad with your logo tattooed on them, then you clearly have got squad culture. So yes, they do have to come back though, because it was a thrashing by Canterbury last weekend. So I've gone Tasman by 5, but yes, I fully expect them to beat the Turbos. And then to finish the round, Canterbury hosting Otago.
I'm going to go off the cuff. I'm going to go Otago. We'll just throw a nice little change into this competition that's just been dominated by Canterbury for so long. Needs to change.
Wow. Okay. Having seen Otago struggle away to North Harbour and watching Canterbury away destroy Tasman, this one is only going to go one way, I'm afraid. I've gone Canterbury by 15, and that's probably on the conservative side. So how you can go Otago there, really do not put your money where Mike's mouth is my suggestion for this week.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, sir, for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure yet again. So why don't you let all the folks know where they can get hold of you?
Yeah, no, go follow me on Twitter. I'm at Real Mike Pullman. And yeah, go to lastwordonrugby.com for all your rugby sports talk and all that sort of stuff. And also just want to give a quick shout out. Sad week this week, passing of Colin Meads. I know it's been, beaten to death by the media, obviously, but yeah, really great guy. Got to meet him a few times. Really intimidating old man, but yeah, sad loss for New Zealand rugby, and yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The greatest All Black of all time. I think he's definitely there. So obviously, a player before my time, someone I never got to meet, so I really don't. But I don't remember him as such. But he's clearly a mammoth player and mammoth figure in New Zealand. Yeah, thoughts with his family in this hard times. And finally, I've been Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe. Please give us a review on iTunes, and I will read them out during future shows. And also help support independent rugby punditry by becoming a patron of DrivingMaul for as little as $1 a month. Patreon.com/ or Patreon, it has an E in there, .com/ DrivingMaul to help that out. Thank you all very much. We'll be back next week with another 5 burning topics, and also I'll be back after the Bledisloe Cup 2 with a live match reaction.